Alrighty, this is that video where I ask you for shekels. So, as I hinted at the beginning of the current year, we're doing a summer tour of countries this year too, just like we did last year. And I say we because you guys financed roughly 55% of the last year tour of Western Ukraine, and also I had someone else to help me with editing and sifting through the tons of footage I got back from that trip. Links with the videos resulted from that tour will of course be available in the low bar. Now, on this tour, I will have 2 cameras with me and at least 1 proper microphone, plus a separate audio recording device so I can record commentary on the fly much easier. This means the videos resulting from this tour will have a much shorter no comment periods. Basically, I will fix some of the imperfections of the work done in the last year's tour. Alright, so let me outline what I'm asking you shekels for. The tour will take place in August and it will last somewhere between 10-11 days and up to 16 days, not more than that. So I want to leave from Cluj somewhere between August the 3rd and August the 7th and be back here by August the 23rd at the latest. The travel route is as follows. From here I get by train or by bus to Budapest, where I'll stay 2 or 3 days. Then I'll fly from Budapest to Kutaisi, which is the legislative capital of the Republic of Georgia, where I'll stay between 2 and 3 days, depending on the weather really. I mean, if it is good weather, I'll stay 3 days because I must take video footage from the Prometheus cave, which is just a stunning place that you really must see. Now sadly, videotaping there and taking the much needed boat tour is rainfall dependent. If it rains, no tours. They also have reconstruction work there scheduled to be done by the early June. Now hopefully they actually do keep their word on that. Anyway, then from there, from Kutaisi, I'll take the train and go to Tbilisi, which is the much more known capital of the Republic of Georgia, where I'll stay for probably 3 days, maybe 4. In Tbilisi, there are 3 things that I absolutely want to get on tape. The Joseph Stalin underground printing house, which, as the name suggests, hosts the actual printing press used by Stalin and his Bolshevik conspirators in early 1900s. And also I want to see the Museum of Soviet Occupation and of course the Old Town. I mean, seriously, the Old Town in Tbilisi is just absolutely fabulous. I mean, the Old Town in Lviv, which I showed you in the last year tour, is a joke compared to the one in the Georgian capital. And mind you, Lviv is an absolutely stunning city that can and will soon enough compete with any of the more respectable and known cities of Europe. Well, Tbilisi is just even better. It's true. Then, from the Georgian capital, from Tbilisi, I want to take the train towards Yerevan, Armenia, and here it really does depend on how much financial support I'll get from you guys. Worst case scenario, I stay in Yerevan for 3 days and then go back to Kutaisi and wait for my flight back to Budapest. Best case scenario, I stay in Yerevan for 3 days and then wander through several other towns of Armenia, specifically Areni, Tatyev, Sevan, Lusarat, Tsarkadzor, or Vahar-Shapat. Now, covering all of these would only be possible at a tremendous cost, but at the very least, I'd like to cover at least 1 or 2 of them. For instance, in Tsarkadzor, there's the Museum of the Orbeli brothers, which is basically a museum to one of the oldest families of scientists going back over 11 centuries of naturalists and top-tier scientists. Armenia, being the first Christian country in the world, has the advantage of having preserved a huge amount of patrimony and heritage of what we now call Western culture. I mean, take for instance the Mount Ararat described in the Bible. Yeah, that one is in Armenia. And there is a monastery carved in stone, as in literally carved into stone, in that mountain. It's called the Gerhard Monastery, and it's more stunning than you'd dare to imagine. But getting there with a guide doesn't come cheap. And considering the importance of many of these sites in Armenia, I want to do my best to save up as many resources as possible to focus on Armenia rather than Hungary or Georgia. But again, this is entirely dependent on how much support I will get from all of you. Now, as I was saying last time I mentioned the possibility of this tour, the Armenian Genocide Museum is of course on the list, with a view to use that video resulted from that particular trip to spam Cenk from the Young Turks with it. Bonus points if I get a short interview with someone from the museum to talk a bit in detail about the issue. Now, I'm only half joking. I mean, yeah, sure, spamming Cenk would be a dick move, but covering the issue seriously and directly from Yerevan is something that I think we can do, and do it right. Another must-go destination in Armenia is the Parajanov Museum, which holds most of the work of the dissenting Armenian film director Sergei Parajanov, who served 6 years combined in Soviet labor camps for daring to dissent from the Soviet standard of socialist realism in his movies. Basically, in Armenia, it really does depend on how much money and how much time you have at your disposal. Exploring this hidden gem at the edge of Europe can take over a month. Now, if we can manage to scratch the surface a little bit, I'll deem it a success. Alright, so, for these, I'm asking for shekelim from you. The goal is $1,800 or $1,800, and the details on how I reached this figure will be in the low bar. Basically, the highest chunk of expenses is museum tickets alongside with videotaping fees and transportation, especially transportation. In Armenia, where public transport isn't particularly fabulous, outside the capital, hiring local private transport will probably be necessary for some of the landmarks, and on top of that, the airfare is just crazily high. Now, housing will not eat that much of the budget because I'll go to low-tier hotels and hostels like I did in Ukraine and like I usually do when I go abroad. Basically, I expect to spend as much on museums, especially on videotaping permission fees, as I spend on housing. Now, you will see in the low bar that the goal I set for the fundraiser is not 100% of the cost, and this is on purpose. The point is to set an accomplishable and a realistic goal. The fundraiser will go just like the previous one last year, primitively, with me reporting once a week or maybe once in 2 weeks for now on how things are going. The fundraiser starts at $120 already raised and lasts till August the 2nd, 2017. Now, the reason I'm starting that early is because I want to raise the shekels needed for the airfare as soon as possible, preferably by the end of this month or mid-March at the latest. Why? Because that one is about to go up if I don't move fast enough. Also, where possible, I want to pay in advance for hotel or lodging so I can know as many aspects of the tour as possible in advance prior to boarding the train to Budapest. I will report once a week or once in 2 weeks how the fundraiser is going in short 1-minute clips, where I'll also mention updates such as more precise dates after I book the flights and things of that nature. So, with all of that being said, gib shekelim oy vey! No, seriously, gib shekelim. There's a donate button below, or you can make a pledge to Patreon. It's not an unrealistic goal, and the tour is poised to be glorious in and of itself. Now, in the rather unlikely case that I raise more than needed, and by that I mean more than $2,500, which is the likely final cost of all of this, I'll put that excess aside for the effort of getting a separate studio for the channel, which is something I'm already in the process of saving up for and want to also do this year. Also this year, as I'm sure many of you already know, I'm also going to Sweden. That's already been paid for. I'll bring lots of glorious footage from there as well. So yeah, please do consider contributing to this, especially now as I rush to get the plane tickets as fast as possible so I can have the biggest expense out of the way, because that expense tends to get bigger the longer we wait. So to those who will contribute, many, many, many thanks in advance, and for those who can't or won't, I guess I'll see you around on Freedom Alternative.